So, hello and welcome to my show here, The Awakening on WGSN-DB, the Going Bold and Going Solo networks. The information and opinions expressed on the show are just that, the opinions of the individual speaking based on their individual personal experiences. They are not intended to diagnose and do not constitute professional advice or recommendations. So you know the pain, the stress, and the struggle that divorcing men and women go through. Well, there is a way to find peace, keep your sanity, and assist your attorney through the process. Doing all that saves you thousands of dollars. My name is Tina Huggins. I'm your high conflict divorce specialist. And my guest today is Oona Metz.
Oona Metz.
And we didn't talk about how to say that beforehand. So, and before I introduce her directly, I want to thank all of you for joining us here in 2026. And this year, we're taking a deep dive into abuse over the whole year. In the coming episodes, we'll explore not only the types of abuse and the types of abuse that we frequently hear about, but the abuse that occurs within our families, just as it did mine. We're also going to talk about sex trafficking. The type of abuse that we want to talk about the most is the kind that most of us mistakenly normalize. And it's the type that I normalized, which often ends up in suicide events. Just this past week, we're in dealing with the holidays at this point. Just this last week, in two different towns surrounding me, we had murder-suicides just because of the stress, the abuse, and in one such case, the children were actually killed as well. So I encourage you to join me, my co-hosts, and other guests as we uncover the true nature of abuse, what it looks like in all of its forms, and how we can learn to deal with it if we're involved, and those of us who have loved ones involved, how we can actually help. So thank you so much for joining me today. And we have Owen here. And so she is actually a psychotherapist, a writer, speaker, specializing in helping women navigate the emotional journey of divorce. Owen is also the author of Unhitched. This is an essential guide for women going through divorce. So sorry, I butchered that just a little bit. So thank you. And so tell us how to pronounce your name again so I can get it right.
Yes. It's Oona.
Oona. See,
Oona
there
Metz.
we go.
Yes. Oona Metz. And the book is Unhitched, The Essential Divorce Guide for Women.
Very good. Very good. Thank you.
Out next
Yeah, Oona and I haven't had a real good chance to talk. We just kind of caught up, and I kind of explained to Oona that this has been a very difficult time for me. Those of you who've been watching the show know that I lost my husband about a year and a half ago, and last year was kind of rocky, but nothing real major. And this year was just a whole different story, and I didn't expect that. So I've kind of dealt with my own little mental flu as I've gone through this, and we just kind of briefly got to talk about that. And so you have written this book. Let's talk about that just briefly before we get to dive deep in here. What was your reason for writing the book in the first place?
So thank you so much for having me on the show. Just wanted to say I've really been looking forward to this. And so I have been a therapist for 30 years. And for the last 15 years, I've led 3 weekly divorce support groups in my practice. And so I've literally seen hundreds of women through the process of divorce. And during that 15 years, I just feel like I was able to learn and grow so much and learn so much about the emotional journey of divorce from all of the things that the women said in the groups and from the things that I said to them that were helpful. And I finally decided I just wanted to help even more people. And so I decided I need to write a book so that I can get this information out into the world and help more people. So that is how I decided to do it.
Well, and awesome. I know prior to all my episodes a year and a half ago, I had started a book and I've kind of started it again and then put it
Uh-huh.
back on the back burner, but mine's about abuse.
Uh-huh.
Um, and that's what we're wanting to talk and go a little bit more into the mental aspect of what happens when people go through abuse and different things. I had shared with Una that I myself I work in a situation in Minnesota where as a mediator, I help try to keep families together, specifically families that teenagers are in trouble with the law and a lot of times we see different things that go on with these teenagers trying to help them navigate that type of stress. Um, and so understanding that viewpoint of the stress and having gone through abuse myself, because I had talked to you just briefly about that, I know there's a major psychological aspect that comes with that. So can you kind of just touch base on that just a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I think the other thing I want to say about abuse, and I know that you know this too, but just for any listeners out there, is that, one of the things we know about abuse is that it doesn't discriminate based on zip code, right? Or education level or income level. If we just look at abuse in the movies, it's oftentimes, a poor woman being abused by her boyfriend who pulls up in a pickup truck, right? But we know that abuse happens there, and it also happens to the woman in the suburbs who's a CEO of her own company or has a master's degree, and her husband pulls up in a Mercedes and abuses her. So just wanted to start off our conversation there and say how prevalent abuse is. And I think women often feel ashamed, like, I have this education, why didn't I know this beforehand? And yet abuse can happen to the most highly educated person, right?
Oh,
So
definitely.
start with
And
that.
you talk about how abuse can happen in all aspects. It also happens from the woman to the man.
Yes.
I know that most of my viewers know that I focus my work to work with men, although I work with women. Um, and I myself came from an abusive situation, but my own father, the last time in that relationship, I ended up picking him up out of the hospital after she drove over him with a dually pickup truck.
Oh boy.
And
So
and
that's
hi-
abuse.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, there's Matt, and she shot at him several times. My brother had seen the bullet holes. I didn't ever see that, but we often depict things as this abusive man, and we usually depict it in the lower
Yes.
class, where less money is there, and that is not
Not true.
the case
I mean, it's true there, but it's also true in all
everywhere else.
other places too. Right. Right. Right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, in your experience, how do people that have been through this type of trauma or abuse show up?
Hmm. Oftentimes, when people come into my office and they have been in an abusive relationship, they show up in a number of ways. One of the ways they show up is with physical problems. Not necessarily directly from, I don't mean like a bruise on their face, they may have that, but also we know that psychological stress, acute psychological stress impacts the body too. So I often see women show up with heart problems or kind of new aches and pains, stomach problems, difficulty sleeping, difficulty concentrating, difficulty eating. So it can really impact so many of the different aspects of the body and the mind, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And so I actually had come in coaching from the natural health side. And so mind body medicine is where my background comes from there. And when you talk about how it can show up in a physical state, and then you mentioned in heart issues, well, these are places in mind body medicine. If we hold on to this trauma, if we hold on to that, it's going to manifest, and we see migraines, vision problems, hearing problems. And although neck issues can be caused from the physical trauma that if they receive physical trauma, but it can also show up just from psychological trauma because now they're just everything's tight and everything's in, and it'll cause cancer and it'll cause so many
Yes.
problems as they move forward.
Yeah. 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 I see that a lot. I see that a lot.
Mhm.
And certainly difficulty trusting. I see when you've been abused by somebody, obviously it's hard to trust that person. But then I think oftentimes it kind of spider webs out so that it's hard to trust other people. And I think most importantly, sometimes hard to trust yourself, right? If you've been abused and then you realize that you've been abused, and then you think, oh my God, well, now can I trust myself going forward? Like, if I didn't see this before that it was happening, how will I trust myself in the future? So I see that really happening a lot too for women.
Mhm. And I see that from my clients. I think that's one of the very first or earliest things that my clients will say. They're like, "My gosh, I just feel so stupid that I let this happen all these years."
Yeah.
And I'm a fifth degree black belt, and I ended up with a broken hand and separated ribs. And I am not going to throw my ex-husband under the bus. These were situational types of abuse, and they would have gotten worse had we not separated. We were just becoming water and oil in our relationship, and it just didn't match together. And in mine, honestly, it took me 15 years after the fact because he did gaslight me. He made me believe that it was my fault that this
Mm-hmm.
happened because I literally released his grip because I was trained and there was a door jamb in the way. But then he threw me on the bed and he stuck his knee in my chest. And his comment was, "You were just crazy and I just didn't want you to leave and go and hurt yourself."
Uh-huh.
And I
He was
worked with
helping you.
right, he was
Yeah,
helping
so
me.
what a kind man to help you that way. Right.
Right, right.
I'm just helping you. Yeah.
And
Right.
and my therapist took her quite some time to get me to see the real picture that
Mhm.
he was the one that caused these things, that
Right.
I wasn't the cause of them.
So often it's so commonly part of abuse, right? I mean, part of the abuse is to abuse you and then to say that it's not abuse or that you're making a big deal of it or that you caused it. You if only you hadn't done this, I wouldn't have abused you or it didn't actually happen. That's part of the abuse, right? Yeah.
Yes, it's
Yes.
definitely part of the abuse. And that runs into, and this, now we're going to talk about the difference between psychological abuse here and the physical abuse, because those of us who know anything about abuse, and a side note here, the people that are watching that said, well, at least he didn't hit you.
Mm.
I much rather would have been hit.
Mhm.
Much rather would have been hit than yelled at
Yeah.
because that yelling is what's caused the scars. It's
Yeah.
what's caused my personal scars. It's what's caused the
Mhm.
rumination in my head to go back and forth that I'm a piece of shit or that I'm worthless and I'm not good enough. It's
Mhm.
taken me years to
Mhm.
get that rumination out of my head.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, the emotional abuse, I think, is equally, if not more, damaging for sure than the physical abuse. Yeah,
Well, and if there's physical abuse, there's always psychological
right.
because now there's a different form of fear. And
Yes.
there's a book out there called Walking on Eggshells. And
Mhm.
that that explains how most of us feel. We're okay. And then it's time for that person to come home and now we're just walking on eggshells, or it's our time to go home and we're just walking on eggshells.
Right. And I think sometimes people don't realize some of the other things that are abuse too. Like it can be physically abusive to throw a heavy object, you know, past you that hits the wall, right? Or to slam a door so hard that the hinges come off, right? It didn't touch you. The door didn't touch you at all, But that out of control behavior causes so much fear, and it's so physically based, and it's so much based in power and control. Or like, for instance, I have women who say, um, well, he would drive the car like 95 miles an hour or in such an aggressive way. And I'd be saying, stop, stop. I want to get out. I want to get out. He didn't touch me though. So that's not abuse. Well, that is abuse. If you're acting in a manner that is putting fear into somebody's physical fear into somebody, that is considered abuse. That's real.
Yeah, I've had a situation where the person just gets so angry that they knock over stuff in the house, just knock over or punch holes in the wall
Mm,
and or get in front of your face within just inches and scream and yell at you. And because they don't touch you,
mm-hmm.
and so then they gaslight you. I didn't touch you. I didn't abuse you.
Right, right, right. But they're using power and control to threaten you, intimidate you, humiliate you. Right,
Mhm.
right, right. And all of those are aspects of abuse.
Mhm. So I want to go in and talk a little bit about PTSD and CPTSD and narcissistic rage
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
because they're different,
mm-hmm,
but they can look exactly the same.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So can you kind of just give us, shed some light on what the differences are between PTSD or what it is and
Mm-hmm.
CPTSD?
So PTSD is post-traumatic stress disorder, and it is a cluster of diagnostic. It's used in the diagnostic manual to describe kind of a cluster of behaviors or symptoms that result from a traumatic event, um, and can include things like um, intrusive thoughts, um, what we were talking about before about the trust issues, um, definitely the physical symptoms that we were um, talking about, nightmares. Um, so and, PTSD can come from a number of things. It can come from a single traumatic event, witnessing a single traumatic event, or experiencing a single traumatic event. I mean, it gained real popularity in terms of knowing about it from veterans who experienced anything, war related. But now we also know that PTSD can happen from abuse or neglect in families. Um, and CPTSD is when the PTSD is continuous, when it's more chronic, when it's not an acute one time situation, but there's ongoing abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse.
Okay. And so then because of my work, I
Mhm.
get to hear and experiencing it through my clients, right? So when a person goes through narcissistic rage and
Mhm.
understanding rage is just craziness, throwing stuff, yelling,
Mhm.
um, and narcissistic rage, I understand it from my work as a very dangerous thing. So could you kind of shed some light on that?
Yeah. I mean, you were referring earlier to these two situations where there was a suicide murder that occurred. And oftentimes, we know that when there is abuse, that the most dangerous time to leave a relationship, the most dangerous time is leaving a relationship. Sorry. Um, and so I think that is partially because of a narcissistic rage. So a narcissistic rage occurs when somebody who has narcissistic traits really likes to be in power and in control. And when they are faced with not being in power and in control, then the rage can really arise in order to try to help them to regain some sense of power and control. So if somebody says, I'm leaving you, that's it. If they say, I'm leaving you, the narcissist may do a number of things to try to get the person to stay, right? And, but if the person is really serious about leaving, that can throw somebody into a narcissistic rage because how dare you? I'm the king here. I am the one with the power and the control. How dare you leave me? How dare you expose me? How dare you, and and kind of break my narcissistic shield in a way. It's really about exposure and lack of power and control that makes the narcissist fly into a rage. Has that
And
been your experience?
yes, yes, totally. And to get an understanding, I my clients will get a hold of me thinking about leaving and talking about how crazy their
Mhm.
spouse gets when they think about getting out. And so I automatically I'm like, okay, so as of right now, no talk about leaving, no writing about it,
Yep.
no thinking about it in their presence. You just keep going as
Mhm.
if nothing is going on, and we just work on getting them out because,
Yes.
you know, we've got to keep them safe.
Mhm.
But it's about really, in this case, keeping the mind of the abuser safe as well.
Yep.
And we don't know why the abuser is the way they are, because in narcissism, in most cases, these people are they grow into this, not
Mhm.
so much that they're all born with this craziness.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah, it's so important for people to have a safety plan if they're leaving either an abuser or a narcissist, because leaving is a dangerous act. Unfortunately, staying is also a dangerous act, right? And
Right.
so many times people are really betwixt and between. Like, you can understand why, people will say, well, why didn't she leave or why didn't he leave earlier, right? And well, they were scared and rightly so, right? Because it's dangerous to leave. And that's, we see that all the time. There's a case, right? I'm in Massachusetts. We have a case right now where the woman was planning to divorce her husband and he killed her,
Right.
and that happens all the time.
And that was what happened in these two situations where families were killed just within just a couple of weeks ago. And the one where the children were killed, it's because, and in this case, it was a man that
Mhm.
did the attacking in both cases.
Yep.
Um, but the one with the children is he was being kept from his children for the holiday,
Mm.
and he was having to hand them back. They were at the exchange.
Yes. Oh, I heard
And
about that one.
so this is post separation, and
Uh-huh.
post separation tends to be more dangerous
Mhm.
because now there's no control and they're trying to get that control back. And so it's a case in this, where he just brought the gun to the exchange and shot the kids, shot her, and then pulled it on himself.
Yeah. Yeah. So sad. So awful.
Mhm.
So awful.
Mhm.
So many lives ruined. So many lives.
Yes.
And not
And
just those four people, but all the people who knew them and all. Yeah. Mm.
because these people are sons and daughters and brothers and sisters,
Yes. And coworkers and yeah,
right?
everything. Yep.
Cousins. Yeah. Yeah. So, in your experience, what are some of the misconceptions that people have when it comes to PTSD or CPTSD?
Mhm. I mean, I think one of the misconceptions is that you can just get over it. Like, oh, well, it just happened once, just get over it. Or it happened many years ago, so just get over it. Right. And I think it's not something you can just get over. I think it's something that takes a lot of healing. And whether that's therapy or a support group or, coaching or any, there's lots of ways to kind of have healing happen. Um, but it's not something you can just get over. I think the other misconception that I oftentimes hear is that once you have PTSD or CPTSD, you're kind of a weaker person or a sadder person or, a more broken person. But, in addition to PTSD, there's post-traumatic growth too that happens for a lot of people. And a lot of people emerge from PTSD and they are, in fact, really stronger and happier and more empowered and go on to do things like you're doing right now, to have a podcast, to, educate other people and help other people to heal. So I see a lot of that in my practice, as well as people who say, like, I wouldn't be here right now if I hadn't gone through the PTSD. And I don't want to go through it again. And I wish I had never gone through it. But it also gave me some important lessons and taught me important things and gave me some sense of resilience. Um, so again, not saying it's a good thing. It's not something you ever want to happen, but I think there are positives that can come out of it once you've healed.
Well, and I am sitting proof of that.
Yes, that's right.
I have dealt with the PTSD. I, of course, didn't know that was happening.
Mhm.
And in another relationship, a boyfriend grabbed my wrist and I was I was in a rage. It
Wow.
was, I don't remember exactly what happened, but at some point I was holding something that I either ended up throwing at them or was going to throw at them before I figured out that I'm here. I don't know how long it went on because in my situation I blacked out. It was like
Uh-huh.
just that rage that I went through
Mhm.
and going through all of that and connecting my dots, which is what's helped me to get to here. And like I had told you before, I wanted our conversation to be real. If we drop F-bombs or if we talk about oral sex being forced on somebody, I want it to be the real conversation because that is how I healed, being
Yeah.
able to talk about it,
And
bringing
no,
it
you're
out
not the
and
only
saying
one.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's too much silence in terms of abuse, and there's too much
Mhm.
shame and stigma. And the only way I think we get through that shame and stigma is by kind of shining a light on it.
Mhm.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know your situation, but, I guess if you were in my office, one of the things I would say to you is when he grabbed your wrist, was that a trigger for you of, what did it remind you of a past abuse? And, was that, you know, like, of course, you're going to have a reaction to somebody grabbing your wrist, but also if you've had similar situations to that, you know, you're going to have an even greater reaction, right?
Yes, and that's how my hand got broke the first time. And then
Right.
the
Yeah.
ribs getting separated is he grabbed my wrist and I was done with it and I released and that's when and I wouldn't fight back. I mean, the last episode that late my not my late husband, but my ex-husband and I went through, he threw me down and got me in a chokehold on the floor of my mom's house at
Mhm.
Thanksgiving. And I refused to fight back because it was in my mom's living room. But our youngest son had to pull him off of me.
Oh, okay.
And he used the fact, oh, I was just playing. I was drinking and so I was just playing around. But it
Uh-huh.
was the first time in my mom's situation because my family chose his side. It was the first time that my mom saw why I left. And she goes, and this is so important for our viewers. She said, how come you never told me any of this?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
didn't want my family to think poorly of him.
Right.
That was my
Right.
reason.
That's right. And you weren't ready to leave. And if you admitted it to them, you also have to admit it to yourself, right?
There we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's the whole thing is that you need to find people that you trust
Yeah.
and you need to share your story,
Hmm.
even if just little bits at a time, because when it's time to leave, if it's an emergent or if it's planned, you're going to need support.
Yes,
Mhm.
absolutely.
Those
Absolutely.
people are going to be your support.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
So, what do you feel is probably the most important thing for our viewers to understand or know about PTSD?
Mhm. I mean, I think the one is that you're not alone, that this is not, I think oftentimes people feel like it's, they're the only ones who are experiencing this. So definitely that you're not alone. Um, Two, that it's not your fault. That's a really important one. And three, that you can heal. You can do the work of healing. It takes time and the right people to be around and the right environment, but you can heal from PTSD.
And this is one of the things that I work very strongly with my clients on is that the things that we went through, we go through to strengthen us for what's on the other side. I try to get them to understand that no matter what trauma they went through,
Hmm?
that trauma now has given them a strength that they would not have had they
Exactly.
not experienced it.
That's right. That's right. It builds resilience. Yep. Yep. And that post-traumatic growth that I was just talking about. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. And so when people, I mean, I went through the loss of my husband. So my husband died a year and a half ago, and then I had gone through a divorce 22 years ago.
Mhm.
And I mean, I don't want to go through either of them again. That's why it took me so long to get married. Um, but I can tell you the trauma that I
Mhm.
went through my divorce. I mean, 6 months after I left, Una, I attempted suicide. I
Mm.
was ready to take my children's mother away
Wow.
from them to get
Mhm.
that pain to stop.
Yeah. 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 Because you wanted an escape hatch. Yeah.
Mhm.
Felt like the only way to escape that pain. Yeah.
So, and how can you tell somebody that is feeling like they're in that seat right now? What do you have to say to them
Mhm.
to help them move forward to the next step?
Right. Well, look what happened with Tina. Look what happened with you, right? I mean, I think it can feel like you're trapped. It can feel like this is never ever going to end. That can be part of PTSD. It can be part of depression, right? Depression sometimes can trick people into feeling like I've always felt this way and I'm always going to feel this way. And it also can be part of abuse. Abuse can change the way you think about yourself, right? And I think hang in there, right? Because there are people out there who need you. I mean, you need you, but if you can't believe that in this moment, know that there are other people out there who need you and who want you to be here and that things change, and if you look back to your life, look a year ago or 5 years ago, you were in a different spot then, right? And you're gonna be in a different spot again in a year or in 5 years. And it's worth it to keep on keep on being here. Keep on being
Yeah.
here, and your experience will likely help somebody else. So you got to get through it.
hmm I am. I'm here,
Yes.
but I have one of my closest friends who's not here.
Mhm.
Um, the breakup that she went through, she just couldn't handle it. And she left four wonderful children behind
Heart-
who need her every day. And now she never got to even meet her grandchildren,
oh, heartbreaking.
and it was a moment. And all she was
And then the
experiencing,
abuser wins, right?
yeah, yeah,
Don't let the abuser win.
it was just a moment that she experienced. And that moment was literally less than a month. And
Mhm.
all she needed to do is get through that moment.
Yeah.
And that's what I did is I got through that moment and literally the next day
Yep.
things started to shift
Yep.
for me.
And sometimes the only thing you can do is left foot, right foot. You know, People say, oh, well, you should have a self-care regime and you should, make sure you're journaling and make sure you're doing your breathing exercises. And that's great. You should do that too. But if you can't do that, it's okay. Give yourself grace. Just put one foot in front of the other. Just keep the two most important things you can do for yourself are eating and sleeping. And if that's all you can do in a day, that's all you can do today. And tomorrow maybe you'll be able to do one more thing. But today, Just get yourself some food. Doesn't matter what it is, get yourself some nourishment and make sure you can get yourself some sleep. And maybe tomorrow you can add one more thing on.
You know, and when I had all of this coming up with all of my clients for the holidays and whatnot, and the things that I told them, this was going to be their first holiday without their kids. I had dads without their kids and moms without their kids. And so I said, you know, Christmas Eve, if you've been invited someplace, go. And they're like, well, God, I just really don't want to. And I said, just for a moment,
Yep.
go make an appearance,
Yep.
get yourself out of your
Yep.
house, out of this,
Yep.
then come home
Yep.
and let yourself cry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let yourself hurt and
Mhm.
then go to sleep.
Yep. Yep. Good advice.
Just go to sleep, you know. But the people, being around people, whether you're having chit chat conversation or whether you're having real conversations, it doesn't matter at that moment. It only matters that you're not alone
Yeah,
for the whole time frame.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, that's great advice.
It's so important, so important.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so in the course with all of the work that you're doing, how often are you dealing? I mean, obviously you're dealing with women that are going through divorce, but how often are they coming into you where they're in trouble?
Mm. Um, I see a lot of women who were married to narcissists or people with narcissistic traits, certainly. And I see a lot of people who have been emotionally abused. Um, Most of the people I see are now out of that situation, or out of living in that situation. They may be still, most of them are still dealing with um, their ex. So that's really the support that's needed at that point. Um, yeah.
So, and this is something that is so hard for the loved ones who know this is going on. They all think that they could say, you know, you're being abused, you need to get out. And
Mhm.
yes, that probably does need to be said, but what do you feel or what can you say to the loved ones? What can they do from
Mhm.
your viewpoint to help?
Mhm. I would say that rather than telling somebody they have to get out, to ask somebody how you could support them. Like you could take somebody aside kind of quietly and say, hey, I just want to let you know I see what's going on. This is not your fault. And I just want you to know I'm here to support you in whatever way you need. So if you need a phone call, if you need a place to stay, whatever you need, I'm here for you. That is a better thing than telling somebody what they should or shouldn't do, you know, because I think everybody has to come to it on their own, but knowing that there's support out there is really helpful. And I think pointing it out, I think saying, hey, I saw the way that your spouse is treating you at that party. That's not okay. And you may decide to stay or go, but I just want you to know that I saw it and you don't deserve to be treated that way. Nobody deserves to be treated that way. And I'll support you no matter what, but you don't deserve that. That's what I
And
would.
I think that's good information. And something else I want to add to that for those of you who are loved ones watching is that they might spat off to you. They might even get angry that
Yep.
you say that.
Yep.
Just keep loving them and stay there and keep letting them know you're there because eventually they'll
Mhm.
find an escape route and they'll be able to get out. But right now, you don't know what they're in. You
Right.
don't know how much pain and how much fear they're dealing with.
Right.
Just be kind and loving and gentle to them.
Right. And I think pointing it out, if you see it, is can be helpful because sometimes they can't see it or they think nobody else sees it or they think, oh, like you were saying before, they've been gaslit into thinking, well, this isn't abuse. I mean, just because, he or she did this or that, that's not abuse. And so having somebody say, like, I saw that and it's not okay. You
Mm.
just better.
And I wish that somebody had said that for me because that was the one thing. I mean, he was that way with me, or,
Hmm.
people, and nobody stood up, nobody said anything. And so when nobody says anything, it makes you
Right.
littler. You're
Yes.
hiding, no one sees you.
Yeah. Yeah. So many women that I see say that I became small in my marriage.
Hmm. It
Mhm.
became unimportant.
Yeah.
And it's not even so much in the marriage, but in your own head.
Yeah.
And that's worse than in the marriage, because when you become small to yourself,
Yeah.
you become non-existent. Well, then you don't even try to take
Yeah.
care of you.
Right. Right.
So important. And so as we get ready to close this out, Una, um, I know that all of your contact information is going to be below in the show notes. But so kind of tell us a little bit about your therapy, your book, or how people can get a hold of you.
Oh, great. Thank you. Um, so I just want to point out my website is oonametz.com. It's OONAMETZ.com. And I have a lot of free resources on my website. I have a lot of podcasts on there. I have articles I've written. I have legal and financial um, recommendations and resources, and a lot of websites you have to put in your email to get the resource. Mine, you can just go spend all day on it, get all the resources you want just for free. And my book, again, is called Unhitched, The Essential Divorce Guide for Women. It comes out January 13th, and you can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes and Noble. It's also available as an audiobook, which was very important to me to have an audio version because for number one, that's just the way that some people's brains work. Some people like to read on paper, some people like to read on a computer, and some people like to listen. But it's also a safety issue. And some people don't want to be reading a book about divorce and have it on their bedside table because it's a safety issue, or have it in the car when they're waiting in line to pick up their kids from school. They want to be able to be private. And so that was very important to me to make an audio version of it. So, feel free to have it, and I can be right there in your ear, or in a book that you can put in your purse. It's all about the emotional journey of divorce. And I felt a lot of vignettes in there, a lot of reflective exercises, and then just a ton of practical tips for dealing with all the emotions of divorce. And there's special sections on narcissism in there, on emotional abuse, on coercive control. So I hope people will check it out and find it helpful in your journey.
So another question, you obviously do one-on-one work. Are you able to do one-on-one work with people virtually?
So I'm only licensed in Massachusetts. And my one-on-one practice is full. I do have these divorce support groups I run for people who live in Massachusetts. Those are all in person. Um, so yeah.
But being able to get to your website and pull off all that information would be huge.
Yes, absolutely. So there's a ton of information there.
And I've already got your audiobook. I
Oh,
already went and made sure that I could get
oh,
that when it
good.
comes out.
Great.
I
Well, it'll be there.
I don't make time to sit and read,
Mhm.
and I get dressed in the morning, and so I listen to a book, or when I go run, I listen to books, or when I
Great.
drive.
Great, great, great. I can't wait to hear how you like it.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
So for our viewers, I'm a certified high conflict divorce coach. I not only am trained in high conflict divorce situations, I've also lived through it. My father lived through it. I helped him, and my late husband lived through it. So I've witnessed it, I've been involved in it, and I've been trained in it. So I'm here to help those of you whom I can help. So you can reach me either through my email at coachtinalynn@gmail.com. That's coach, CoachTinalynn at Gmail. My website is divorcecoachspecialist.com. You can also find me on social media. Facebook under Tina Lynn Huggins, that's Huggins, on LinkedIn under Tina Huggins, on Instagram under Divorce Coach Tina Lynn, and on TikTok under Divorce Tina. So, Oona, what is a last bit of advice that you can give our viewers?
I think if you're facing a divorce, I think to not make sure that you're not doing it alone, make sure that you have some support out there, some help, and also know that the beginning and the middle of divorce is always heartbreaking and stressful, but there is light at the other side of the tunnel. And lots of people emerge after divorce and feel stronger and happier and more empowered. And I hope that that will happen for you too.
That's awesome. And my advice is pretty much the same, especially if you're involved in an abusive situation, is don't do it alone. Reach out to somebody who is trained and can help you through the divorce end, and somebody and the information that Oona has on her website and her book are all things that can help you, not so much in the getting out of the divorce, the exit, which is what I specialize in helping my clients with, but you've got to get to the other side and you've got to go through the healing process. You've got to find the time, the space, the place to love yourself again. And that's going to take time.
Absolutely.
Very
Absolutely.
important. So many people, including myself, find themselves as they're going through the divorce on the edge of thinking of suicide. And please, if this is where you're at right now, don't be alone. You can call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 988. And they don't know who you are on the other side, but there's somebody to talk you off of the ledge. Please reach out to somebody who can talk you off the ledge. And I know a loved one would be great, but these people at the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, they don't know who you are. They don't care. All they care is to help you at this very moment because they do care about you and getting you off of that ledge. So you can also call that same number, 988, in Canada as well. And if you are in a situation that you need the police present, please call 911. Get the police there. Press charges. This is your key out. This is your safety net. This is the key to keep that person away from you. This is when you file for the divorce. This is when you take care of the very difficult things, the things you can't take care of when there's narcissistic rage. And we have the domestic violence hotline, the national domestic violence hotline number, and that's 800-799-7233. That number again is 800-799-7233. I have actually called that number. They are there, they listen, they'll help you with the next steps, they'll get you to a safe place. It's a great number to call if you're in a situation that you just need some help to get out of. So I also ask that you join me next week when we take a peek into what's ahead for the rest of the year and what we're going to cover. I also want you to like, comment, and share this so that it can help other people. Thank you so much for joining me, Oona, on this, and I apologize for messing your name up in the beginning.
That's okay. It happens.
But thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you.